Speaking of a great politician, in my opinion, Senator Alex Antic joins us now from South Australia. Actually, I didn't realise until this week, Alex, I do apologise, I've been misnaming you all these years.
Oh.
According to Anthony Albanese, you are in fact the far right winger Alex Antic, according to a press conference. Antic. I had the misfortune of watching, so I do apologise if I mispronounced your name. I always thought it was Antic, but there you go. Albo knows better. Now, Alex, how's the election campaign going? Your thoughts on the latest things happening in the campaign, and also we gather today the Liberal Party is going to start handing money around, my money as it happens, and your money to all sorts of voters.
Well, Rowan, it's South Australia. I think is tracking pretty well. We've got Nicole Flint, who's doing her usual hard work and tremendous job in Boothby, which is a critical seat. It's a very line ball seat. James Stephens, of course, has got a battle in Sturt. But we've spent a lot of time here in South Australia making sure that we're getting quality, true Liberal, grassroots candidates, people that fly the flag of true Liberal values, and we're doing that. Zane Basic, or we should say. No, I won't go into what you just said, but he's a good Croatian boy, and he is a similar spelling. You could probably spell his name in a similar way. But he's doing a great job up in the hills in Mayo, someone that can really be trusted with our values as well. But the really interesting battle that's here in South Australia is the battle for the northern seats. So we're talking about people that know South Australia, seats like Spence and Macon, which is the old manufacturing belt of Holden, Elizabeth. We're talking about places like Golden Grove in Macon. But we've got two tremendous candidates out there. Daniel Wild is the person that would be known to audiences here.
Absolutely.
He's our candidate for Spence. And he is about as true blue Liberal as you will get. He's been out on the ground for months. He's been talking to people and learning, unsurprisingly, that people out there, having voted Labor most of their life, are thoroughly sick of being treated in the manner they've been treated. Their manufacturing credentials are nil. The Labor Party has effectively chalked this and presumably other similar blue-collar seats up on their win board. And Dan Wild is taking it to them in a very serious way. He makes the point, of course, that this is a seat that was the launch of the Voice campaign for Yes. So Anthony Albanese went out there. I mean, is that the way you say his name? I should say it differently myself. Albanese was out there in Spence a year and a half ago, launching the campaign, and guess what? They voted 72% no to the Voice in that electorate. So it shows that Labor have misread this seat. And of course, there's also the other northern seat of Macon, where we have Irina Zagladov, who is literally born in the Soviet Union, has come to Australia for a better life, and now says, I'm starting to see the things out here in this country, big government, the creep of authoritarianism that I never thought I'd see in Australia. And I left the Soviet Union. And in fact, funny story, she was at a shopping centre, as she has been for months and months and months on end. And a person came up to her and told her that, you know, she shouldn't be a Liberal because socialism was great. And she stopped, and she obviously hadn't heard the accent at that point, said in her thick Eastern accent, I lived in the Soviet Union. You don't know what I'm talking about. So, you know, this is the sort of interaction.
Fantastic.
People in that part of Adelaide, this is the interesting one to watch. Very interesting to watch. A little bit like we saw in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the United States, where we had this, coterie of disaffected ex-manufacturing people. They're just interested in the cost of living. They're not interested in Labor's woke inner-city politics.
Well, Daniel Wild is an outstanding candidate. He's, of course, well known to Sky viewers. He's been on Outsiders. He's been on many of the shows, regular on Credlin and Bolt and so on. Terrific bloke. Fantastic candidate. Tony Abbott popped up there the other day to sort of walk the streets with him. And, yeah, 100%. They're both outstanding candidates. Rita.
Well, you talked about 72% of that formerly safe Labor seat voting no. Do you think the Liberals have misread how important these cultural issues are? Because we're not hearing a great deal about this, and this is a way where you can really isolate Labor, who have veered so far left on some of these issues that they are just out of the mainstream opinion. But we're not hearing the alternative point of view from the coalition. Yeah,
well, Rita, I think the first thing to note is that when you look at the numbers and the polling in every seat around Australia, the number one issue is cost of living. So I think we need to accept that is what people are interested in. And of course, I think the vast majority of that campaign is focused on that, and Peter is extremely focused on that. A large section of that, of course, I would say the majority section of that is the cost of power, which of course we're tackling with the gas reservations and the nuclear plant and these sorts of things. So, look, I think we have to be clear about that. I of course, spend too much time probably in the battle of culture wars because I think it is important, and I think that does flow through to the Liberal Party. I mean, you know, we've seen the battle for the voice, we've seen all of those things, but in a short campaign like this, I mean, I think we do have to be laser-like focused on the cost of living as an issue, because this is the thing people are talking about. When I'm out talking to people over the last few weeks in the lead up to this campaign and in the campaign, that's all they want to talk about. Yes, they're interested in all the stuff we're all interested in as well, the ideology and the schools, and we're covering all of that as well. But the main game is the fact that people can't afford groceries anymore, and I get that.
Freya, sorry, Rick.
Yeah.
Freya?
And so you talk about the cost of living, Alex. Over the last 3 years under Labor, we have had the worst decline in living standards in the developed world, the worst decline in Australian history. You would think that the only question we would have to ask Australians is, do you feel better off than you did 3 years ago? And the answer from most people would be absolutely not. Yet now we're seeing Labor run this health medi-scare campaign and people seem to be buying it. So has there been some sort of living standard amnesia? Have we just forgotten the last 3 years? What's going on?
No, look, there certainly hasn't been any amnesia from people I'm talking to, and but it is a good question. I mean, Labor, we've seen all this week, Labor have been very good at their politics. I think we have to remember that. Labor, wherever you go, state level, federal level, they get the messaging right, they get the politics right, and they are atrocious at the government angle of it. So people need to remember that. Don't be fooled by the local messaging, which is, you just want things the way they are. Like people are being gaslit on this stuff. This is a government that's out telling you that your power prices are not a problem. They told us it was going to be $275 off your power bills, and of course it's gone up something like 3 times. So people need to be conscious of that. There is an attempt, I think, to rewrite history, as you would expect out of a Labor government. And people, I have to say, haven't forgotten that message. They just need to, get to the line in the next 3 weeks, and we'll find that there are, I think, an increasing number of people whose focus comes back to that.
Alex, you pointed out, and everyone accepts that cost of living is the number one issue. We have had a significant decline in living standards, and yet people are not blaming Anthony Albanese for that. The polling is clear on that. In fact, since the election campaign started, Labor have strengthened their position. So how is the coalition failing to communicate that? And how is this one-off tax cut up to $1,200 for individuals going to counter that narrative? Because this just, again, seems to be a vote-buying exercise.
Well, I mean, I think it highlights how difficult it is to knock off a first-term government. I mean, they have all the run on the media. They've, spent all the government advertising and spent the last 3 years telling us it's all right and that it's everyone else's fault. I mean, when you look at the press conferences the Prime Minister has, he says the words Peter Dutton about 70 times and then blames the last string of governments about 42 times. So we can't underestimate how difficult that is to face, particularly in opposition, because the media do want to hear from whoever the Prime Minister is at the time, and the opposition leader always faces an uphill battle. But look, Peter is working around the clock on this, and the team is doing its absolute best to get that messaging across. There are lots of good grassroots members as well. People are, by the way, going to win this election in their own electorates as well. And we're pretty confident we've got people on the ground. I mean, I can certainly say that here in South Australia. If you're voting Liberal, you're getting a good, true Liberal candidate, and that's the best we can do in terms of getting the message across.
Well, as I say, Alex, I was thrilled when Anthony Albanese started criticising you as being some mad, crazy right-winger destroying the Liberal Party, blah, blah, blah. Let's have many more Alex Antics in the Liberal Party, I say. But anyway, that's just my opinion. Thanks so much, and good luck to your two candidates there, Daniel and Lucy. They sound fantastic. Great. Alex Antic there, and top bloke there.